here, but we're
All
firing
right.
up. Okay. Okay, it's already probably live, but the bar's still going, so I'm just waiting. Okay, I see our lovely faces on Facebook.
Woo!
Good afternoon, world. I feel like Adrian Cronauer. We need to have a nice
Good morning, Vietnam.
world. Anyways, we're going on a round table with the lovely Anya. If you want to introduce yourself first.
Hello, I'm lovely Anya, located in California, just hanging out with my brethren on this beautiful day.
Beautiful. And our lovely brother Patrick, go ahead.
Yes, hi, I'm lovely brother Patrick. I am temporarily out in Havelock, which is about 3 hours from Toronto in the middle of the forest for 2 more weeks. So, yeah.
Beautiful. He's communing with nature.
Yes, exactly. And healing stuff by living with my parents.
Interesting times.
Interesting.
I'm Paul Hanrieder. I feel like we're some kind of religious order now because we're calling each other brothers, and I didn't.
That's
Cult.
it,
We're a
exactly.
cult. We're a cult.
We're a cult of awakening consciousness.
Yeah.
If you follow us, we're going to trigger the frick out of you, and we love doing it because it's for your, hopefully, your preferred highest good. You might not thank us for another 2 years, but
you'll
right
learn
now,
self-love for sure.
Exactly.
Yes.
So it's all done with love. We're not trashing people or forcing them to wake up in any way, shape, or form, but we're giving alternate perspectives so that they can maybe wrap their mind around something different and see how our world is a little tangled up. So to drill down as a tool, I came up with the idea this time of jealousy, speaking around what jealousy is and how it works for us and what our experiences are of it. And I'll maybe start a little bit just with my perspective. I think we'll get each one of us to give their own definition of what they've experienced jealousy as. But jealousy, in my experience, is usually where people are usually in relationship, but it can also happen with people that maybe have similar jobs or life purposes or whatever. And you look at them and you say, I really want that for me, or that's my lover, or they've committed to me and I'm jealous because you have an interest in them. And it creates this almost like a self-worth crisis inside of ourselves of whether or not we're more worthy or that other person is better or not worthy or all these different things. And I'm gonna surmise that most people are experiencing some level of jealousy in their lives, either with partners or jobs or somebody that's similar to them that they want to be like, or other things that they just want, but they don't know how to get. So they just sit in this jealousy, and it's kind of like this pokey, ragey, angry little pouty boy inside that's just like, oh, who the fuck are they? And why did they get that? And why don't I get it? And that kind of thing. So that's been my experience. It's an issue. You can call it an issue, but it's a programming thing within ourselves that we got to deal with. It has absolutely nothing to do with the other person. And it's something that will grind at us. And it's a good thing in an awakening perspective, because that looking at that jealousy and understanding the whys and hows and what's causing it will make you ask yourself a lot of questions about yourself. And if you can get out of blame or pointing fingers and taking a very self-responsible approach, you can see a lot of different perspectives and stories inside your life. So that's my perspective. Who would like to go next?
I'll go. My experience has always been with jealousy because I'm a Scorpio, so it's always kind of been in the background of me all the time. It's kind of a trait of that sign, unfortunately. And my understanding is it comes back to a lack of self-love and trust, because you're getting very possessive of whatever it is out there that you're grabbing onto to try and make yourself complete. And then if you can't have it, or somebody else takes it, or you feel threatened that you're going to lose it, you're going to react with this jealousy emotion and get possessive and controlling on it, and it doesn't end well. And that's where, for me, it's once I've learned how to find my self-love and my self-worth and not needing things outside of me to complete me, jealousy just disappears. Like the thought of it now is it's definitely not part of my world anymore. There's too much love in it. So once you have that self-love, jealousy kind of just fades away. It's not really necessary or needed, in my opinion.
And for you, was jealousy a very visceral emotion or feeling? Like,
well, it was always in the background. It was tied to my lack of trust, and it would wrap itself up with the anger and rage that I've dealt with my whole life. Like, I always kind of identified myself with the Hulk, with the temper that I inherited from my father. That was the family karma I had to deal with from that side, and it would all just tie up together in this toxic soup that was just really lovely to deal with. So, but serves its purpose because you have to experience it to learn to overcome it. So if you are feeling that, don't victimize yourself and say, why am I feeling this way? Poor me, poor me. Just learn that you're feeling it for a reason. Go within, find out the reason why you're feeling that, and learn to self-love yourself and learn to trust other people. And if something does fade away from your life, it's not meant to be. Let it go. Don't be that possessive or controlling over anything.
And would you say that it's a little boy, little girl affliction inside of ourselves?
Yeah, I would agree with that. It could stem from trust issues or lack issues from your youth growing up, from childhood, for sure.
And if we're still stuck in that consciousness, which a lot of us are, yeah, and so that requires a lot of soothing and self-love, like you said.
Right. Yeah, you have that
part of you.
Yeah, you have to. That's one of the many issues. We all have trauma and things from our childhood, and that's why our inner child is usually buried away behind everything while we're adulting, because that's what is expected from us. And as you unpack it and get in touch with them and heal all this, it's wonderful though, because once you have your inner child all healed in a part of your life, it's amazing the simple things that can give you pleasure. Like we just recently had all of our ice melting and stuff here. And so as the ice was thawing out, there was always all this ice along the side of the driveway. And when I would take Linka for a walk, I would just walk up and down the side of the driveway, just cracking all on the ice. And I was getting so much pleasure and happiness from it, just from the sound of them breaking the ice, because I was being a kid. It was great.
Beautiful. Are you complete? We'll let Anya have her. We got into some of the exploration. So
on to the Cult Sister 3, Anya.
To quote a famous poet of our time, jealousy is just love and hate at the same time. That was a quote by Drake.
Famous philosopher. Cool.
Yeah, famous Canadian philosopher. But no, on the real, I think for me, jealousy is just seen, again, as you said, like a childhood, but like an unmet need that you had in childhood that just alchemizes itself into the energy of jealousy. And so that's where you act out upon this unmet childhood need from the past. And for me, I experienced jealousy mostly in relationships. And it's funny because I would always have this talk when getting to know guys. They're like, oh, are you a jealous type? And I'm like, no, I'm not a jealous type. No. But I am. I have some Leo. I have mostly Leo in my background. So it's easy for me to actually get jealous. And I used to have shame about admitting it. But now I don't. But yeah, it is what it is.
Yeah, it's just another wonderful part of that makes you.
Yeah.
So question, while we're on that topic, how does jealousy make you feel in your body?
It makes me feel like I want to reject my body. It makes me feel like uneasy to be in my body, like just uncomfortable, just like
Like a runaway feeling, or?
Yeah, just also maybe just like a judgy feeling, like, oh, what's wrong with my body? Like, and so it's like this whole cascade of emotions and loops that come up. And like, it just makes me judge my body.
Okay. And does it give you a mental, I don't know what you want to call it, diatribe going on in your head of all that stuff?
Oh, yes. I'm a recovering fantasy addict. So anything that will feed my dopamine fix and emotional addiction, I will harp on that.
From my perspective, I don't think I had a ton of places where I was jealousy about lovers. I didn't have a lot of relationships before I got married. But yeah, the jealousy is kind of this, you're always hyper vigilant a little bit just to see if another man is looking at your wife, or guys will do that kind of like ass stare or something as they walk away, or whatever. So you'd feel that, and it would be just kind of like that soldier warrior kind of feeling. I've seen a lot of guys, that's not my personal experience, but where they'll physically beat the piss out of another guy for looking at their girlfriend or whatever. I had a experience being on the other end of that where he said that. I stood up for myself, but just the energy that's imparted. And I think some women use that as a manipulation. They get a power rush out of other men. They'll play a game or flirt or whatever, and then they'll see how you react just so that they feel safe if in that circumstance, right? So I've seen a lot of guys where they'll like physically punch a guy out or grab him and shake the shit out of him and lay down the law kind of thing, right? That's more of the guy perspective. Do you have any more to add to that, Patrick? Or?
No. Thankfully, I've never had those kind of experiences in my life. So
okay.
I've always been the one that was experiencing the jealousy towards other, but I never got violent. I always just internalized it and beat myself up about it and made myself feel like shit.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's really important. It's a constant dialogue that's going on inside of us that I think is an offshoot of not worthy or our own personal insecurity. And it's just sitting there constantly. It's like, okay, well, why am I not good enough? Like you said, Anya, or what's wrong with my body or whatever. And we instantly go to something that wasn't even said a lot of times. And it's just to beat the piss out of ourselves because we're not feeling generally worthy in the world. We've got this person that's a catch and we're scared shitless that we're going to lose them and all the time we've invested and all this kind of shit. And then it's like you're screwed at that point, right? You had no conscious choice. But I think the lie that we always have is we have no conscious choice in the first place. And the minute you're thinking like that, you're literally creating that energy that will break you up or potentially see you as lesser. And then you've self-created. It's like a sabotage. I find as well. That's maybe a more flip side to jealousy. But once we get jealous, then it's like projected anger at your partner too, right? It's like, why were you looking at that person and why were you doing this? Which is really our own insecurity again.
Yeah, and then there's just like scarcity that comes up. It's some sort of scarcity mindset that is just developing through that.
Let's go on
the lack mentality, a part of our society,
yeah.
So it integrates into everything, right?
Yeah.
All of our things that are part of our life.
Mm-hmm. So let's take a little sidetrack while we're here, because these emotions that we're feeling as part of jealousy are symptoms of either programming or self-belief or other things that got created somewhere earlier in life. And unfortunately to say, if you're a human being on the planet Earth, there was a shitload of programming that basically right from the minute we were born forced us into being that. I was on a call last night and we were talking about how a lot of people go into depression, anxiety, or then it can lead to multiple personality disorders when you're basically whipped this way and pleased this way, and you end up having to fraction yourself sometimes to meet all the different poles in your life. So these things, and we have to understand the human experience. We don't come here to get beat to hell and get raped and traumatized and all this kind of stuff. We come here to explore our boundaries, our experiences, our understanding, so that we can create the most powerful version of ourselves through all those juxtaposing energies. And if you came here in this time, in this place, with all this darkness and all this corruption and all this control going on, you came here to do the master class, whether you like it or not.
Yeah.
I honestly feel we don't even have a chance from the minute we wake up to this point in our lives of where we ended up, right? It's not like you could be hyper successful unless you were part of cabal or corruption or whatever, and they'd let you in the club, and then you can make a whole bunch of money. And but things like investing and all those things have always been jaded against us or whatever. So our parents are teaching us all this stuff that's meant to protect us, but it's actually some of the most limiting factors. It's like, don't get your hopes up too high because you're really not going to make a lot of money unless you go to school and you get a good husband and blah, 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 blah. The story goes, so you fall into that. No choice of your own. Everybody else was doing it, so what are you going to do, right? So understand we're not bad when we feel these things, or we didn't. It's not that we couldn't have learned it a better way, because that's the societal norm, unless you were really outside, like outside about 95% of the population, you had no choice but to believe it that way. And filling yourself with love, we talked about, right? Your now partner that is you're jealous about has 40% of your love in them. And if you lose them, you're kind of hosed, right? All your security, all your whatever, because you've created that outside yourself. Where Patrick said, once you learn to self-love yourself, it changes all that kind of stuff. Your self-loving now is maybe testing that they're still interested, or having a hard conversation and say, I saw you looking at that girl. Do you still love me? Or whatever. So the perspective that we need to shift into is that we're healing and resolving stuff, and all these things, when they show up and create strong emotion in us, we got to start asking ourselves a lot of questions. Why does that hurt? Why am I not feeling worthy? Why is my self-worth so low? Why is my whatever? And stop reacting in the moment, because I don't know if people know the term emotional intelligence, but you can scream and yell and feel really good for 30 seconds at somebody that just bothered you or you're jealous about or whatever. And you'll spend months repairing that relationship just because you let that go. You weren't accountable with the energies. You were projecting something from maybe someone else on them. So let's get to more of a question here. So what is your feel on those perspectives? Because that's something that's been growing in me, is to understand and use those as like little challenges to self, and not see them as the other person, but see why they create so much energy in me. Does that resonate, or how have you experienced it?
Yeah, it's never about the other person. It's always about you, for sure. The other person is just a mirror at the end of the day. And we keep forgetting that. And we're like, oh gosh, darn it. But no, I mean, I think that was accurately described. It's just my little hurt girl that always comes up. It's just a game that I created, but no one else can play this game. And like, and in that, I can never conquer that game. I just end up fighting it and getting defeated, and just like no one wins. And like Patrick said, like, yeah, it's like you have to practice that self-compassion, self-love, and learn how to soothe yourself.
And who's the only one that can speak to that little girl and have a conversation with her to make a change? Only
the grown adult Anya.
And here's crazy, right? You're going both through parental visitations or whatever.
Oh my God.
Who's the more adult sometimes? I'm not trying to call out our parents or whatever, but a lot of people are stuck in their inner child, whether or not they choose it or not.
Yeah.
So look at yourselves and say, holy shit, I'm adult enough that I can be in awareness of what's going on inside. So do you not end up having to be your parents in that period and unwind all the stuff that you were taught that made that little girl feel unloved or unwanted or jealous?
Unworthy, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, I don't know, it's all about the foundation of it, I guess. And I think that was part of the whole way this was set up. Like, you know, fuck discrimination. Let's do self-hate. That way everyone's included. And we can make money. Just sell these Jordans, make this person feel better for a second, but they'll still come back to get some more because they don't know how to develop that thing that's only found within ourselves. But
And that's why we've always had the hardest time, because we chose before we incarnated to come into these specific families, knowing what issues they were and what we were going to have to deal with. And because we are the person in that line of our generation where it stops, where we can finally look back and say, no, all this bullshit ends with us, and fix it and going forward, which, because time being an illusion, you're healing all your past, healing all your future, and then everybody else that's still alive in your family can choose to go forward without all that. We've done all the heavy lifting. They don't even realize what we've done. So.
Yeah, fuckers.
Right. And we can't hold that against them, though, because it wasn't their destiny. It wasn't their time.
Yeah.
They're just going through the motions and the programs and doing the best that they could. They had the pure intent of love and wanted to do the best. They just didn't have the tools that we came into incarnation with to blow this shit up and change the world and make it better, right?
Or the pressure cooker of right now and COVID and going inside ourselves to frickin' make us destroy it once and for all. Yep.
Exactly. Well, the old has to crumble and fall apart. You can't build the new on a shitty base. You got to take it right down to the nothing and then build up the new beautiful light earth on top of it all. So
yeah, and I think
chaos is necessary.
And I was going to say, I think like now, like couples that are just, they have to spend time with each other in the same dwelling. Like they usually, you know, you can step out for like 8 hours a day to your job and then travel, whatever. But now it's just really come up to the microscope and just like really like blown up. Like, oh shit, like I can't run from this anymore. Like I have nowhere to go.
Yeah.
The mirror got really close. Yep. Yeah.
Exactly. You actually get to see who that other person is, and then who you are, and then you know, a lot of relationships are based on having that extra space and around and only interacting for a small amount of period, and then you're enjoying the life that person's providing you, or the kids that they're in, or whatever things that matter to you. With all this extra time, that's why somebody told me, might have been you, but like the divorce rate since COVID and everything has gone up huge, because all these people are getting together and they're like, oh my God, I actually don't really love this person. I don't want to be around them all the time anymore. And so they're all doing their independent thing.
Absolutely.
And good for them, because now you get to go and finally discover who you are. You can't really find out who you are if you're constantly around other people, because you're always compromising, you're always mixing stuff, you're always doing stuff with other people. You need that time, that solitary time, to figure it out.
And really, this is the pressure cooker. How many people are going to choose the self-love, get new jobs, walk away from marriages and relationships, or burst out and complain to somebody that's pushed them their whole life and they never felt safe enough to do it? Just the bomb goes off and it's just like, no fucking way, I'm not going to do this again.
It takes a lot of courage to do that, to be able to walk away from everything you know, and that's all part of it. That's the leap of faith and surrendering to it, trusting that the universe is going to catch you, and you're not going to end up poor and destitute on the road with nothing to do, and no money in your bank and nothing. That's all part of this journey. But when you do it, what comes is just fucking awesome.
And imagine how many calm, quiet ones turn into a volcano and just cut poof. And then like, I've never seen that person this way before. Wow, maybe some newfound respect shows up, right?
Yeah,
Because
exactly. Yeah, you'll love when surprised what you've seen inside you that's been buried there for years, that you've never nurtured and allowed to come out, because you've constantly been busy all of the lives before COVID. Going here, you're going there, you're going here, you're going there. You never stop. And so many people are afraid of that, because if they finally actually stop and sit and take time and have all this doing nothing, even if you're getting cabin fever and going crazy, allow what's inside of you to come up and face yourself, and you get to learn what's actually inside of you, instead of constantly losing yourself in distractions and things. So.
Or like just putting on a mask, like I'm happy, no, there's nothing wrong with me, like yeah, everything's great, ha ha ha.
Right, exactly. Yeah, so many people wear so many masks.
COVID
it's crazy.
Doing it to us every day, literally.
Yes.
Well, and the key, I think, to drill down on what you said, Patrick, is people have to be comfortable with going into their deepest level of emotion by themselves first, so that they can understand themselves and hear it. And sometimes that needs to be in another room where you're okay to scream and yell and and express some of this stuff without feeling shame and guilt or uncomfortable.
Yes, exactly.
Even your spouse and stuff here in the amount of rage that's going to come out, it doesn't have to come at them, but now you get safe with, where you can go right up to that edge and there's the breaking point. Then they can have a conversation with you that's really, really crisp and really, really direct without rage or hitting or any of that kind of stuff in it, because you're out of control. But I'm going to guarantee that all people are going to find out that once they've sat in their deepest rage in a place where they can be completely safe just by themselves, they will have a new understanding of themselves. Because that rage, when it's uncontrolled and it's just waiting for the top to pop off, will feel completely uncontrolled. It'll be bubbling, it'll be seething, it'll be scary for you. But once you get in it, you're going to find out it's an emotion, it's visceral, it's coursing through your body. It brings a clarity, it brings absolute presence in that moment. And when you can get there and you can get your breath and you don't feel like you're going to suffocate or have to run away, that's your warrior. That's your absolute warrior in that moment, and that's your power. And most people will shove that part of themselves into a bottle, into a cage, and say, no fucking way, I'll scare somebody. That's not a good girl, good boy. But the minute you let that top off and you let it bubble and just sit with yourself, you're going to find out that it's a part of you, and it makes you feel really clear and really calm. Once that first uncontrollable hit of adrenaline and all that kind of stuff comes, you're going to find your breath. It's way easier to find it when somebody's not poking you at the same time while you're trying to find your place. And just breathe and scream into a pillow and hit the pillow and do whatever you have to do. Nobody has to get hurt in this, but do it for yourself first.
Yeah, you have to express it. Every time you decide that you're going to suppress an emotion, which the traditional guys have been, I got that from my dad. Bury your emotions. Oh, you don't need to feel that. That's not a guy. You guys don't feel like that. So every time you suppress something, you're putting it in a box inside you, and it just sits there and it lifts weights until it comes out, and it's going to kick your ass. So you need to experience it and allow it all to come out. When it first comes out, that's why it's so intense, because the longer it's been suppressed, the worse it's going to be when it finally comes out. So just let it out, feel it, and then you can let it go, and you don't have all that crap buried inside you, and all that weight is gone. You'll literally feel less weight on your shoulders emotionally if you can do all this. Life is so much lighter and free when you do.
Absolutely.
Shadow work is just looking at the shadow of the stuff you've rejected, but which is part of you, but it just wants to be loved and held and seen so it can go up to the light.
Exactly. Just wants to be out integrated and part of you. Don't ignore it.
Yeah, Robert Greene, he was the writer of 48 Laws of Power and the Art of Seduction. He talks about how like your power really does lie in tapping into the shadow aspect, like the dark side.
We all have to understand we're 50% light and we're 50% dark, and dark is the lightest light, actually, once you've really come to understand it, and to be able to hold your power and to not kill someone, but get to the point of battle or whatever, so that you can, like I spoke about that situation where my son and I are screaming at each other and eventually we bump our chest together and we're like this close. Nobody was losing in that moment, but that showed that we all had our power and nobody had to lose. And I don't know if did I tell that story in one of the last lives? Well, my son and I got into, like, sometimes we get into this yelling match, and I could see he'd make me really angry. It'd be something like cleaning the bathroom or cleaning his room, and he'll say it for 2 weeks and never get around to it. And then I'd get to the point, it's like, come on, man, your integrity is violated. What the fuck, or whatever. And then a lot of times it'd get to yelling, and then he'd shut off. And then there was nothing, and I couldn't, he'd be 3 days and I couldn't talk to him anymore. The last time it happened, we yelled and yelled and yelled and yelled, and we were all standing in our position and they were all right. And I was at the bottom of the stairs and he was at the top of the stairs, and I start walking up the stairs and we're screaming louder and louder. And he's like, I'm not backing down. And I didn't want him to back it down. And I said, you don't have to back down, I said. And I came right up, and our belly to belly, and we were like 3 inches away in our faces, yelling, and we were completely angry and in rage and mad. Nobody wanted to hurt each other. We just sat there, and I said, I love you. And all of a sudden, everything just went boom. And then we hugged and we were both exhausted, but that was our rage. Our rage got to the point that it had to be heard, and we weren't going to shut it off for somebody else's protection or that I love you this way or whatever. And we sat there and we looked at each other, and he remembered that for the rest of his life. Like, this was a month ago. And he's like, you remember that time or whatever? Let's not go there ever again. That wasn't fun. But we did. And it wasn't like, you're wrong or whatever. No, it was like, we both won. And then it was like, that's sometimes what it needs to be.
You're literally describing my day today.
Beautiful. Do you want to talk about it or?
I don't know.
Okay, we'll give you 2 minutes. You think about it. No rush. But
too fresh still.
My hand is literally like my right hand is literally placed like this with an ice pack, and I can't move it, and it's getting swollen by the minute.
The only one that hurt you was you, right? But there's a new understanding in town. There's somebody that doesn't back down. We'll let you talk about it later, but
yeah,
it red Anya though.
it felt so good.
Woo-hoo.
Like you guys said, like the bubbling and just like not caring about being judged, just like finally just full speed ahead, full throttle, not holding anything back. And it feels good now because I'm like so tired, and I'm like, oh my gosh, what a day.
So yeah, but you let it out, you're freer now because of it, right? So.
Yes.
How much in the past did Anya let Anya down by listening to all those other voices?
So many times. Betrayal. It was
always
all betrayal.
Yeah. So could you be safe in your own body if you didn't find this part of you?
No.
Woohoo! That's big. You got
right,
the warrior.
Finally,
you got the person.
Instead of letting people just roll over you, you're like, no, enough. And then you stood up for yourself. Brought out that warrior and like, no, fuck this. I'm done. Like,
yes,
it's a great feeling when you do that, because I've done that too. I spent years of just no doing the, because I was raised Catholic, do the Jesus thing, just turn the other cheek, just no, ignore. No, you don't do that forever. You need healthy boundaries. You need to stand up for yourself. You need self-worth. You can't always just do that. So that's awesome. I'm really proud of you that you did that, Anya. That's amazing.
Do you want to tell the full story, or do you want to?
Sure, I could tell the full story. Please. Okay. I have this guilt that I carry about being a good daughter, and every time in the past I would try to like go out of my way, like this is my chance to like be a good daughter. I can do something nice and help my dad somehow. Well, that opportunity happened this morning where he needed help we have 2 cars. He needed me to take one of the we have bad miscommunication, but I agreed, and I had to take his car, one car, he took the other car, and we needed to do some theft prevention at this police site. And we get there and the line is long. It took an hour to get inside, and we all like had to wait in our cars and pull up. And the car I was in, which I didn't want to go in, had low gas. And I didn't know that, but my intuition was like, I should take this car, but I didn't. And so I told my dad, I'm like, hey, like the light is about to come on. And I didn't ask for what I needed. And I had such bad anxiety because I am stuck in this line and I can't get gas, and the car light is blinking. So I have to turn it on and off. And I'm like stuck in this thing for like an hour until it's my turn. And so I'm just freaking out. I'm just trying to read a book. I brought a book with me, so I'm calm, but I'm just really pissed off at my dad. And I already start feeling the rage boiling, and I'm just saying very unkind things in my head, like this motherfucker, like blah, 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 blah. And I'm keeping my cool. And then when I got home, I just told him exactly how I felt. I got gas, and like, I should have just been like, I don't feel comfortable. Can we just trade cars or something? But it was just such a miscommunication, which has been our life together. And I got home and he was like, why are you upset? And I was like, I'm upset because you put me in this uncomfortable position. And he immediately dismissed that and walked away from me. And that's always been our relationship, where I would say my feelings and he would get into his avoidance state and just completely invalidate, dismiss my feelings, call me crazy, and walk away. And then that makes me feel worse about myself. And then like, finally, today was not the day to do this. Because I told him, and he he invalidated, he left, and then I started crying, and then my mom came, and then I'm telling her what had happened, and she's mediating the situation. My dad comes back, and my mom's like, what did you do? Like, and she's like trying to mediate the situation, and me and my dad get in a shouting match, and he's invalidates my feelings and walks away. And I sit for like 30 seconds and I just scream at the top of my lungs as loud as I can, full on rage. And I haven't felt this in so long. And then there's like a wall, and I just start hitting the wall. I should have done it with my left hand. I did it with my right hand. And I'm hitting the wall as hard as I can. I just needed to let it out. And like my parents finally saw, they're like, oh, but my dad is still like, you're crazy, you're being crazy. And I was like, yeah, this is why I can't have a stable relationship with a man. So all the knives came out, but it ended like with us talking about our feelings and like me bringing these examples. And he was just like, you're not the only one that feels this. Like I have this too. So it was just this mixed bag of feelings and raw emotions. And my mom was like trying to mediate the whole thing. She's like, you just need to hug your daughter. That's all she needs right now. And he's just still trying to defend himself. And I'm like bawling. That was my day.
So in the middle of that, how did you feel? You felt the rage come. Did you feel out of control?
I felt in control.
Beautiful.
Because I'm like finally owning this rawness. Like, this is who I am.
Mm-hmm. So this most intense moment of your life, and you're screaming and all this kind of stuff, and you're hyper aware of everything, and you're really aware of what your dad's doing and how that's shutting you down and all these kind of things. So what's the outcome? What do you understand better about yourself?
Communication, and to just immediately speak my needs, and to just instead of let it go for much longer, just be like, you know what? No, this is not working. This is what needs to be done. And to just do a better job on my end, communicating that, and still not be afraid and not people please him or try to be a good daughter, just be myself.
I mean, don't allow what you feel you should be to make you do something. Because if you didn't want to do it, just say, no, I don't want to do this.
I didn't want to do it.
Even when you were telling the story, you're like, oh, I had to do this. You didn't have to do it. You chose to do it, right? Own that shit.
Yeah, because I'm like, here's my opportunity to be a good daughter. Let me do something right. Because it's like he comes from a very perfectionist Russian background. So nothing I ever really did, like I never got that, oh, he did a good job type of affirmation.
Yeah, proper support,
Yeah.
So one question, does hitting things fix anything?
No, but it felt damn good at the time. It was part of the theatrics of my power.
Cool.
At least you hit the wall. The last time I got that angry years ago, I ended up hitting a brick wall and tore the shit out of my hand. It was horrible.
Oh no. Yeah, and like my skin, like on my leg broke out after, so I'm just like covered in red.
Oh man.
Yeah, but look at the toxicity that's coming out.
Yes.
So that's rage and anger stuck inside of you will come out in the worst possible times.
And it needs to, though. It's like, especially now more than ever, like we can't sit with it longer. It needs to be out. And this is something I've held on to for like 20 plus years. Sure.
And I'm following my intuition. You might need some tears after to clear and resolve everything. Because they're all tangled up together, right? It's a sadness and it's a rage and it's an anger.
Yeah.
And the tears came out a little bit, but the rage popped out. But to soothe yourself and get comfortable with your little girls, you might need to just find a pillow and.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely.
But that's the self-love part, right? I don't have to get to that level of anger unless I bottled it for 30 plus years and I hate myself and blah, blah, blah. And then all of a sudden it's like, I forgive you. I'm sorry. I missed this. And even forgive your father, because 9 times out of 10, I don't know if you knew your grandpa, but he's an exact copy of what his dad was. And it was really rock solid. And he probably got beat and he probably got, you will not show emotion around me ever.
Yep.
And you're just getting a mirror of it. And he has a choice, but he's not aware that he has a choice yet.
Yep.
So
exactly. And he started crying. And I haven't seen my dad cry in a very long time.
So very cathartic.
Very cathartic, very rocky. A great day overall. Can't say I do it again.
Overall, as Anya, feel more powerful now?
Yes, okay. Absolutely.
That's
Anya, the warrior queen.
Yes.
You'll go to the mat and do what you need to do. You may not win or whatever, but you can be physical. You can. It's there. Just ready.
Yeah, it felt damn good.
Well, can you imagine going into a relationship or something where your lover's doing something you don't want and you're saying no, but now all of a sudden the warrior stands up and grabs him by the shoulders and said, no, right now.
Yeah.
That person is put in their place and they know damn well that you don't need that lesson anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that I believe that this was all supposed to happen. Mm-hmm.
And I think coming unglued right now.
Yeah. And I really do feel I don't want to harp on this for much longer, but I do feel like I came to fix this parental
You've been saying it.
Yep. Line and cut these emotional cords. And I have been, and this was just another day in that process.
Call it a victory, because that was intense. And you're like, what, an hour later on a call talking about it, nursing your hand? Like, holy fuck, that's powerful.
Can I let me move this? I want. My hand is literally like this, hanging out.
Punch a softer wall next time.
Yeah. I haven't done any, like, I've never been that violently passionate like that before.
Because the emotions have been suppressed for so long.
Yes.
That came up in such an intense way, right?
Yes. Yes. Jealousy. Let's go.
Jealousy. Okay, cool. We're getting a few comments on here too. I'll go to them later, but
okay.
So ultimately, what I found through my experience, that's showing up as jealousy, showing up as what Anya just talked about, Patrick from his dad. Oh, I did want to talk about what Patrick was saying. He spoke about 11 generations back. So in shamanism, they believe that we are born with the medicine for our previous 11 generations, and 10 is in my learnings, and 10 forward. So basically what I'm ever fixing for myself from my dad's lineage, my mom's lineage, and if you start looking, when you go 10 generations back, that could be like a freaking million people with the size of some of these families and stuff that were out there, and then their generations down. But I have had experience of exactly what Patrick was saying, the things that are in our mom and dad. So I took some very, I don't know, about 4 years ago, I took some very deep sacred sexual workshops, something called ISTA Level 1. And I went away to ISTA and I went through all this shit, and it was like a week long. And not a month afterwards, I'd gone through all that healing. My mother came out of the closet about some sexual shit that had happened in her family and as a child, and hadn't told my dad, hadn't told me. I had no idea it was part of me. And she started talking about it. She started forgiving the man. It happened for a long period of time. And I could see a direct correlation of me going and staring at that shit that was in me, made it safe for her to now share it. So that's healing up the line. And it happens all the time. This thing that you shared, you're healing something with your dad's relationship. And we're healing up the line by standing in our power, not to hurt them, not to put them through hell, but we have come with the strength to deal with the shit that they couldn't deal with themselves. And I'm not saying they're weak. I'm saying that they just didn't know how, and they didn't have the courage within them to go and take trainings like this and get awareness for themselves. But it untangled for me a whole ton of stuff. It's like, okay, the minute I was born into my mother's body, I could feel that wounded little girl, and I couldn't feel safe in that energy of this raped child. Not her fault. Once again, as Patrick said, I chose that lineage and that mother and that father to go through this. And then at the same time, I'm taking all the shit from the perpetrator, the predator energies and all this kind of stuff, trying to heal all the women so that women feel safe and unconditionally loving. That love, I know my mother sent me love and all this kind of stuff, but it went in, I wouldn't even breastfeed. And it made my mother even worse because societal conditioning said if you couldn't breastfeed your child, you were hurting them and blah, blah, blah. And then she gave me formula, and she gave me full strength formula, and I vomited for the first year and a half of my life because she didn't know any better. But once again, bad mom, something's wrong with you, just propagating this energy. And this is where I get to the point where it's like we didn't have a chance at that time. So all these things were programmed into me. I turned into a masochist and all these kind of things. I'm never good enough and I'm bad. And I couldn't find any way to make my mother love me in that pure, unconditional 3D love. But she couldn't even know it because she, as a child, got it all trashed by this thing that happened to her. So now as my adult, I'm having to go back and look at all that stuff. I don't have to repair women. I don't have to feel all this kind of stuff. I don't have to carry predator energy. Not that I enacted it, but I carried it so that women could feel safe. But in the hindsight, women felt it in a different way. It's like, okay, there's predator energy in there. Well, it was to keep it away. It wasn't to use. So you all of a sudden find out that your whole fucking life was a run on all these things that was part of our parents' lives. I'm not blaming it. It strengthened me to the point that I can make these calls, make this awareness, unwind it all, get rid of the shit that's all behind it so that it never has to happen again. Like for you, Patrick, for example, would you ever be that angry father to your child again because you experienced how awful it was? Go ahead.
No, definitely not. I don't even remember the last time I've been angry. It's not part of my life anymore. The last time I got angry, I think it was about 2 years ago. I don't remember what caused it, but I got really angry for a couple of minutes, and then I got sick, like flu-like sick for like a week because my body was so sensitive. That vibration of that emotion just took it all out of me, and I paid for it. I haven't been angry since, so there's no need to. I processed all my stuff, and I don't harbor anything, and I don't let the outside world choose how I feel. So even if I'm doing something that I don't enjoy, I'm still going to be happy and feeling the love beaming from me because that's how I want to feel. Mm-hmm. So
do you have any experiences where you healed something in your life and you could see it go back up the chain?
Well, that's what the anger from my dad's side, and then my mom's side was all worry and stuff, and nerves and that kind of fear level stuff. I healed that on both sides, and then that freed me from it all. And then I've seen changes because that opens the doorway for them to be able to now finally break out of that box because you've healed all that family stuff that's been down to you, right? And now they have the chance to finally saunter out of that box in whatever way they choose and heal themselves, not even realizing why they're choosing to want to have that desire to do it now because of what you've done for them. So
and look at all the stories, the expectations, the obligations that came from having that in your life and your family, and everybody played safe and they didn't get angry or they didn't talk about it. And now you're crumbling all that stuff behind because it no longer serves anyone. Once you've cleaned that thing, everything else that's the structure falls apart.
Right, exactly. And you can finally try and be something different and notice yourself reacting to different situations. It's like when you'll have the similar situations that have come into your past where you've reacted with those negative emotions, and then they come back and you're like, well, I don't enjoy this, but I'm still happy and I love it. It's an interesting experience. That's how I take everything now. I'm the detached, compassionate witness to everything. I may not enjoy everything that comes into my life, but I have that childlike innocence and love coming from my chest, and everything is just awesome.
So maybe you describe something really cool there that people need to understand a little bit more. So basically you go back to a state that happened before. How are you seeing it differently now? How are you watching it? And then how are you working through what's now showing up as the auxiliary?
Well, yeah, you're seeing it with that childlike innocence and awe of stuff, like everything that comes into your life. You're like, wow, this is really cool. Like I never, you finding simple pleasures in things where things before were annoying and this and that. And you're like, oh, wow, this is really cool. Like, I kind of never really wanted to do the family thing. Kids have kind of always annoyed me, but I kind of appreciate the kids. Like my niece's daughter over here, she's 2 years old, crawling around, and then watching her and being a part of her life, it's all fun now. In the past, I've always joked around that whenever I was always around kids, they were great birth control. But I don't feel like that way because you have that childlike innocence where everything's just awesome and I just love everything and it's just great. Like everything's just a lot more fun and simple, and
Mhm.
you're basically like a kid, but you have the adult sensibilities and awareness, and you can combine all that together into a new earth being, which is what we're all becoming. And it's amazing.
Mm-hmm. So let's go back and talk a little bit about the psychology of it. What you basically had, that thing you overcome, was a root trauma, what we call a root trauma. Your father had this pain and couldn't deal with his anger or whatever, and it transposed to you, and it was embedded in you to, well, that was the expectation of a man because you had no other example at early life.
Yeah, traditional alpha male for sure.
Exactly. So you went in, you looked at the root trauma, you saw how it was not beneficial to the people that were participating, and you basically started to make change within you that no longer gave that power.
Right. I chose to want to be different. Like, I mean, my dad got so angry one time, he grabbed me by my ankle and pulled me up the stairs with my head banging out the fucking stairs all the way up because he was angry, and that was, I'm the boss and you're the fucking kid, and da 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 da. Like, that's horrible. That's child abuse, but that I chose that. So that was an extreme example of why I didn't want to allow anger to become a part of me, because
absolutely
it makes you do horrible things. And I'm sure on his deathbed, when he died from cancer, he ended up regretting a lot of shit in his life because he did a lot of crazy things.
I feel like
heal that shit before you get to that point.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, but I feel like, you know, I could talk to like my sister, for instance, and ask her how her childhood was. And she's like, my childhood was great. And I'm just like, no, bitch, it wasn't. You just don't remember. You just blocked it out.
They haven't faced with that trauma. My two sisters are the same way. They look back on everything being all perfect and idyllic. And it's not. There's a lot of darkness that they haven't healed. They won't face it. And that's dangerous because you're compartmentalizing everything again until it blows up in horrible ways.
Are all traumas that guide us and shape us in some way, shape, or form? Like, a lot of people say, okay, well, it's not trauma unless it's a rape or violence or whatever. No, I was a 4-year-old boy, and my father screamed at me for hours to eat my vegetables, and like came up to me and shook me and demanded, and I had to stay there and cry and stuff like that. That's the worst trauma you can ever go through as a child. I don't blame my dad. He was trying to make me healthy or whatever, but that was the way he was taught. His dad probably did the same thing. And I can feel that energy today. I can feel energies, little boy, 8 years old, running upstairs to wake up my dad. He's dead asleep in the bed, and I'm shaking him. Well, he was the oldest of 4 boys. And normally when he got shook and stuff like that, his brothers were pounding the piss out of him. So he woke up fully engaged, fists out, ready to punch the shit out of me, like just rage in his face as a little 8-year-old boy. I don't blame my dad. That's his trauma playing out or whatever, but you get a picture and then it shows it's scary, and I don't want to be that, and I don't want to do that again. And those leave imprints on you. I can feel it even in my back right now, just talking about it. I didn't deserve that. It was him reacting. It was unconscious reacting. So really, is there a blame? But it sits with you. I had for a long time any aversion, like fight or flight from conflicts. As soon as somebody yelled or screamed or whatever, I just wanted to curl up into a ball. Those are all root traumas. Your dad's screaming at you. You can't say anything back to him, or you get your ass paddled or whatever, which is my generation, very normal.
Yeah. I got the paddle and the spoon and the belt and the strap a lot.
Well, my funnest time was when my brother beat me with the wooden spoon and the handle broke off, and all I could do was laugh. But she was so angry, just the handle like this, she had nothing to hit you with anymore.
Right, but that's their generation, because like you said, that's what they knew. They're taking what their parents were and then doing their own little version of it, usually a little bit less toned down and everything, but it's still in the line of the patterns, right? So
So nobody's bad in any of this kind of stuff. They're just replaying what they were given when they were done before.
Right. And that's why I wanted to make sure, remember, you can't have whatever, if it was a positive or negative experience, the intent from them was out of pure love. They were just trying to do what they thought was best. So there's no negative to it.
Propagate a better way of doing things. And when you didn't line up with it, you had to have an attitude adjustment.
Exactly. They went back to their programming.
Anything.
They knew.
Did you also see it where parents have completely under-rotated now, right? The kids having a freaking grand mal meltdown of anger in the middle of the ice cream aisle because they won't buy ice cream, and the parents won't grab them by the shoulder and just say, smarten up, because you don't want to hurt your child.
They've taken that to the other extreme. Exactly.
Now it's way too nice, and the child has no idea of authority or anything.
Well, that's what the world's going on now. They're like banning, you know, like they're saying Dr. Seuss books are racist or something. Like, I mean, okay, you have to understand that's your perception of that book. That's not the intent of what Dr. Seuss would when he actually wrote it. That's not what was in his heart. So if that's what you see in it, that's what you see in it. That's not what everybody's going to see in it.
That's what's in their heart.
Right, exactly. So that's your issue. That's not all of us. But we're in this society where we try to blame everybody else. We're not taking self-responsibility. So we'll just ban this. We'll get rid of this. We'll get rid of this. Oh, this offends you? We'll get rid of this. This whole cancel culture bullshit drives me fucking nuts. Because people aren't taking self-responsibility for their own triggers and themselves, and realizing that what they see in the world is through their filter. It's not what everybody sees. It's your chosen way. So get over yourself and deal with it.
They don't know themselves.
Exactly.
Well, and have you seen where people immigrate from other countries and they want to convert our country to their country? So make it okay to wear, in Canada, ceremonial daggers and face coverings, even in places where it's not legal to have face coverings.
Well, in Alberta, where you live,
go ahead.
People don't have to wear motorcycle helmets, I understand, if you're part of the Sikh religion. Which, okay, I get it, but that's super dangerous. Now you can legally ride a motorcycle without a helmet because it goes against your religion. Well, that's a little extreme, because if you fall off a motorcycle, now you're going to be dead. Your head is hitting that pavement, you're toast. Yeah. But it's okay, you're not offending your God. I guess he just wants you to get there quicker or something. Like, Jesus.
Well, and as more ethnic people come in, you can't say the Lord's Prayer in the classroom anymore. You can't have a cross or whatever. Or
right. That's not everybody. Exactly. That's the society that we've been building for so long. Why do you come from your country
if you didn't like it? I'm sorry, it may sound racist or whatever, but you're coming to join the melting pot, not change the pot. You're adding to it and do what you want in your home and in your communities. Those are all fine. But when it's forced into everyone, no one wins, because there is no America, there is no Canada, there is no anything. It's just like Canada would melt away because there's a high population of immigrant people in our country. And if we keep allowing that, then where is Canada anymore? It's like a mix of 4 or 5 different cultures that really like Canada.
Right, it's all just little China, little India, little this, little that, everybody. Exactly. And it's all just like, no, like we're all supposed to be like, each culture has amazing things about it. Let's mix them all together. You can still hold your own values, but you chose to come to this other country to have a better life. So realize all the different things that are the multiculturals out there is what makes our country so much better, because we have all these things and we all love each other and accept all the beliefs. Don't force your beliefs on other people. Well, respect them like we respect you.
Would the freedom even be there if it became 100% their culture? That's
right. Right. You look at countries like Iraq or Turkey, where everything's a lot stricter.
Yeah, exactly.
I never would want to live there. Imagine being a woman in Saudi Arabia or Iraq, Anya. Oh my God.
No. No.
Well, it's rules and all this stuff. But ultimately, so where were we at? Root traumas we were talking about. Root traumas basically build a roadmap of how our life is going to be. And basically we come into our life with a certain amount of root traumas and family traumas and this kind of thing. And it'll guide us. It's like, okay, I got raped at this stage, so I'm going over here, and I'm going, no men in my life or whatever. I got an car accident at this stage. Now I'm afraid of this. So now I'm going up here. My boss abused me at work or whatever. So now I can't go into that kind of work again. And you end up with these 15 different things that have like caged you. and you're just like, I can't do this, I can't do that because of all these things, and you turn off the things because you couldn't deal with them, when it really wasn't about turning it off. It was about getting better boundaries, standing in your power, doing things, honoring yourself, honoring your intuition. All these kind of things are all part of our root traumas, and they basically squash us until there's really no way out, and we really have no choice but to make a choice. And it's not specifically jealousy, but it's underneath jealousy, where we've got all these choices. Only one woman can satisfy my life, and they got to be loyal to me, and we're married, and we got a ring on our fingers, and you're only allowed sex with that person that you're married to. All of a sudden creates all this stuff, and it's like your whole world will explode if you allow that thing to happen that's going on outside you. The jealousy thing. Okay, he's looking at another woman, or maybe he's talking to her. Now it risks all these things. Your safety all of a sudden becomes completely at risk, because now part of your love, and 40% of you is with your lover, and if they're liking somebody else, they might like her or whatever better, and then you're foobarred. So now the rage comes out to self-protection and all these things that aren't even jealousy, but are all that root of tangled mess. Now, the only way to get out of this for most people is to hit bottom. And I don't know about you, I've hit bottom more than a few times. And I had to really admit some really hard things to myself, like a marriage that wasn't working out. It didn't have sex in it and other things. And I had to change somebody to make that change. It maybe destroy all my safety, my house. Am I going to hurt my kids? Give up my furniture, give up all these other things. But it was a choice for me. That was the first really deep act of self-love that I ever had. But then I spent 6 years trying to unwind, like I'm a bad person and I hurt my wife and I hurt my kids and I lost all my money and all those kind of things, because those were all tied into the story. So as we go deeper, we start looking at all these things that have turned us off. And the only choice you can make is for you every single time. You'll go through it and you'll make the choice for somebody else, or you'll try it the other way again, and you'll keep getting crashed against the rocks, and you'll think you're the worst lover or had the worst luck or whatever. But it's you guiding you, your higher self you, which is 1,000 feet up and sees everything. And it's saying, you got to learn this lesson until it hurts and your nose is going to bleed and you're going to be vomiting. And eventually you're going to say, holy fuck, I haven't been choosing me. I've been placating everyone. I've been pleasing them. And then you start to make that choice. And then all of a sudden you look at everything and say, that choice, is this valuing me? Is this giving me comfort? Is this helping my safety? And all these things. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, you find your warrior. And it's like, holy cow, my safety factor went up 9,000% right now because I just got mad at my dad. I didn't have to hurt anybody, but I stood in my power. And all of a sudden, keep going.
I was just going to say, it's funny, like for me, like I didn't hurt anyone. I didn't break anything. I just broke myself. And I took that as a form of self-punishment. That was one of the lessons I've been learning, is self-punishment, and I did it, and it like shines so brightly with that.
But there's
also, because now you get to put yourself back together in a newer, healthier way, right? So
yeah,
we have to break ourselves. We have to rock bottom, because when we hit rock bottom, remember, when you're at rock bottom, the only way to go is up, right?
Yep.
So nothing, but that's what we need sometimes to get ourselves out of our comfort zone.
Yes.
Or life is trying to teach us a lesson, and then it repeats over and over and over. Each time it gets harder and harder and harder.
Yes.
Until you're like, okay, and that's when you start to realize, we've all done that. And then you start to realize, okay, I don't want this to go to rock bottom. I don't want the lessons to be extreme. So you become really vigilant about paying attention to the signs and what life is trying to teach you, so that you can learn and go and make things easier and flow. Because if you could do that and learn it on the first or second try, life becomes really easy.
Yes. What you mentioned, Paul,
What?
Sorry, hold on. About kind of like listening to yourself, and like we kind of end up just people pleasing everyone else and we abandon ourselves. And I realized when you said that is where so much of my rage lives, because I abandoned myself, because that's what I was taught. And it went against everything that I inherently felt. And like, it was just like so rageful to like think like, I abandoned myself and I have no one to blame but me, but this is what you taught me.
But you expected it to come from other people, like love and acts of kindness and giving to you. and you never even allowed it in this roundabout way because you never even expected it, because that's how a good girl didn't expect. Just look at that story. The whole world said, do nice things for everybody and don't expect anything in return, and you got exactly what you asked for.
Yeah.
Shitty. So is it an act of self-love to have your hand believed to be broken?
I don't know.
No, but so you're self-loving yourself. What do you want the outcome to be?
So, and what do you mean by that?
I'm saying, okay, you are punishing yourself by saying, okay, my hand is hurt and I deserved it because I went physical with my anger. But what would be a better self-loving perspective?
Oh, yes. But I think it's just like you said, boundaries, speaking them from the beginning and not letting that thing bubble up to the last minute, last degree, but just from the get-go.
That's a little bit of self-blame still. So take it as, I had the courage to let my rage out today.
Yeah.
And I used my hand in that expression, and I'm loving my hand to have the pain go away, because that's a little bit of guilt and a little bit of shame and a whole bunch of other stuff. Just love it. Because that's part of you that participated in that. And it showed, you said it was giving like punctuation marks almost, is what I heard, to what you were saying in your rage. So don't let it be in your hand, because your hand just participated in the self-love that you just gave yourself.
Thank you, hand.
Absolutely. and it'll come much better, right? Like if it's a game, that's going to be a reminder of, fuck, I found my rage and I love it. And that's a part of me, and accept that. Just feel it into your body. And then your hand doesn't have to be a reminder that you went over the edge or you bad. That's a reminder of, fuck, I love myself for the first time and it felt powerful. And I'll do that again, but maybe I don't have to beat up my hand in the process, right?
Yes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's hard because we're always self-deprecating. And sometimes you need a reflection to just say, okay, look at it in the most loving way. My hand participated in my first expression of rage. Woohoo. Thank you, hand.
High five.
Maybe my left hand will be better next time. Keep going. So you put the brass knuckles on your left hand, and then it'll always be a reminder. It's just jewelry, Dad. Oh, that was went down to the bottom, but it was fun. So, but just understand, this is a time to be really soft and loving to yourself, because you found something that's been bottled.
Yes.
And she wants to be out. She wants out of her cage, and give her permission. Go sit down with her and feel that power again, and feel that energy and express it as good inside of you. And then sit with it and say, fuck, I'm so sorry, Anya. I didn't let you out so many times. I'm so sorry that I always hurt myself or sat and was sad or bottled it up because I didn't get my chance to say what I needed. And you got it. You got that window. You know it's part of you now.
Yep.
You can't ever get away from that.
Yep.
So just don't let your mind eat it up, and just let it just percolate.
So much percolation in the atmosphere this week.
There you go. Good. Well, you got to self-love dogs, and you got to show your power, and amazing.
All those chemtrails in your sky that one day.
Yeah, a lot. Maybe that was the chemtrails. I was just absorbing so much of that. It created this whole timeline.
But you gotta go down. You gotta go down there to heal it. That's when I was going through your process. My higher self would always push me down, because you're going down there to heal parts of you, right?
Yep.
Right, and it's good though. You just keep going down there, because the more you go down there, the more you get used to it. The darkness doesn't bother you. You can heal it faster, and you heal it faster, and then you get to the point where you're just floating around in the clouds, where I am now. It's great.
Well, let's explore victim for a sec, because that's the first place you go to when you get beat the shit out of like that, right? It's like, oh, everybody hurts me, all men don't respect me, or all women are bad, or whatever, and you basically push everything away, and you get into that like just like this and just waiting for the next blow to come, which literally your energy will create another blow. So
Yep.
that because your higher self
You're
wants to get
expecting
rid of
it.
as quickly as possible. That's why I say the darkest dark is the lightest light. Sometimes a rape or a violent attack or whatever sometimes is the thing that's going to make you implode, like squirt out of your cage, and basically then you can make a choice for yourself. So those things don't always happen to kill us and to make us small. How many people have kind of risen up? Like in Canada, there's a hockey player, Sheldon Kennedy. He had all these abuses by his hockey coaches and all this kind of stuff, and he ended up being this man that's talking about the problem in the industry and all this kind of stuff. If he hadn't been squashed, he wouldn't have got the power enough to stand up and say no fucking more. So that's the same thing that's percolating in us when we get hit and hurt and all these kind of things. Things like addictions make us hide from it. So we'll go and eat a pill or some marijuana or some alcohol, and it basically numbs us so we don't have to feel it, and then we don't deal with our victimhood. But once you start looking at your victimhood and you start to see, and a really cool thing that I'd say empowers people when they look at their victimhood, if they can look at their victimhood and see how much of that came from their mother and father, and then they realize they're not a victim, but if you chose, and you're a multidimensional being, you came to those parents, you chose to overcome those things.
Yep.
So it gives you that jet fuel to say, okay, no more. This isn't going to happen anymore. I'm not going to show it to my kids, because guess what? If you don't clean it up now, your kids are going to carry it. Everybody's going to have it epigenetically 10 generations down. So there's this beautiful place of healing and overcoming now. So start to understand that there's something underneath it. And like Patrick said, sit above it 10,000 feet and say, what the hell's going on here? Why am I so angry? Why did I rage at my dad? I love him, but and all those little questions start to bridge. I wish people could see we're kind of like computers as beings, and it's all beliefs and programmings and thoughts and stories. And if you looked, we're like 10 billion lines of code. As you get older, and from your epigenetics, you have all these bits of code that tell you you can and can't do a whole bunch of things. And you just agreed to a lot of them just by being in society and being a good person and stuff. And you literally got to go in and unwrite sections of that code. And when you can find the roots, things like parental stuff and that kind of stuff, you can unwrite millions of lines of code just by starting to clear out that thing that my mother did or my dad did, or Russian culture. You mentioned that a couple times. It's got a whole game thing in it as well. Canadian culture, Indian culture, you can just see it painted on the person. How do you treat women? How do you think about sexuality? What about marriage? They all got fucking different stories that go with them.
Mm-hmm.
And if somebody says, okay, well, I'm Russian or whatever. I've met lots of Russian people that are really open-hearted, but they're really controlled and structured because that's the way the world is, and that's what makes everybody safe. How much of that came with your family? And yeah, you're living in America now, but you're living with all the cultural views, whether you like it or not.
Yes.
I mean, you got to tap into the inner shaman, and you realize those are all just games of culture, and you can either choose to participate or choose not to. Just recognize them all and validate the people that choose to adopt them. Or rise above them all and just see them all different layers of this amazing game we're all in.
and ultimately, they're all unstated expectations. Oh, what would your grandma think? Or what would this think? Or whatever. And it's like boom, 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 boom. All of a sudden, this stuff from the past is controlling you and it's making your choices for you, and you didn't even know.
Well, that's like a perfect example of what happened with Larry, where they gave me a nice reward.
You told us about it before. Just preface it so people on the live know what's talking.
I found a dog.
Yep.
I took it with me because it was I was just following my intuition, and we thought it was abandoned, like the man that was with it, and I just took it because I was just following intuition, and I spent the day with it, and I brought it home, and my parents flipped, but I was able to locate. I played detective all day. I found the owners after some calls. He had a chip in, and the owners came and got him by the end of the day. They were from Canada too. Larry, the dog, was from Canada. So there's a
Wow.
lot of Canadian energy circling me. And
Woo.
yeah, for real. And the owner whipped out a reward, and I graciously accepted it. I said, "Oh my God, thank you." And my parents, they shamed me, and they're like, "We feel so guilty that you took that money." And I was like, okay, well, you're trying to make me feel guilty for something I'm not really trying to feel guilty about. Like, this was all in order. Like, this is how the universe works. Like, there's probably
Yeah, give and take, right?
yeah, exactly. That law. And so they're like, we wouldn't have taken it if we were you. You should go out there and give it to them before they leave. And I was like, no. But then like I started doubting myself and like doubting my behavior. And I was like, should I have played that coy thing of like, oh no, thank you. Like it's okay. When I really secretly wanted, I'm like, no, I'm just gonna be real and say thank you. Like I didn't expect it.
Exactly. You did the right thing. Exactly. You didn't expect it. The universe landed in your lap. You're supposed to take it. Don't deny it. It's okay to accept stuff like that. 100%.
Yeah, and that's the space I've been in where I just receive. I just receive it, and I don't try to push it away or even pretend to be gracious. I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna say yes. I'm just gonna say yes. And
But what's the cultural programming underneath that you can see?
To be humble and meek, where you're like too good for money, kind of like I don't need your money. Like I think something like that.
Well, because that's the old world attitude. You're only supposed to get money when you work for it and sweat for it and do it, right? Don't ever accept it if it's given to you because that's bad. Like
it's like, bitch, I went to Petco. I bought $130 worth of stuff for this damn dog.
Wow. You bought the big bag. So, very nice. But look at how you saved that dog's life. You could have got on the street. You could have, there's a whole bunch of variables that were there.
Yeah, there were so many variables. And like, I usually don't get involved in these situations, but I was just in the flow, following intuition, all intuitively led.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
And you met these great people and they're loving and excited and have trust in the world that people do stuff for them now.
Yeah.
Most people would be just like, that's a fucking pain in the ass or whatever. If you don't get a reward for spending you spent almost the whole day with this dog, and if you were getting paid, you'd be getting 15 or 20 bucks an hour. Like it's nothing all of a sudden. So really you met all the concerns other than it was a reward, and you're getting rewarded for being nice to people. Holy shit, is that so bad now?
Yeah, what a strange concept. What a strange concept.
Cool. Well, enjoy the reward and sit in. Look at all these pictures that are getting painted in front of you of how it all worked. And
oh yeah, yeah. But I'm just like in the mindset of pay it forward, and it's like it's cool. Keep it circulating.
And you talked in your live about the vibration of just being and exploring and seeing what shows up, and that's what happened, right?
Exactly. It was so, I was just in that state. I was up in the clouds a few days ago. I was with Patrick up in the clouds, but
well, and you said something about you self-deprecatingly gave your services to somebody that you hope they'd pay you about the same amount of money earlier in the day. And then it came in a different way by being loving and nice to the dog.
Exactly. It's like as soon as I'm just in operating from my heart space, it just all takes care of itself. And I don't need to do anything. I just need to keep giving from my heart space and not worry about anything except just being genuine.
Exactly, because whatever you put out, it's going to come back to you. That's the beauty place. And when you can find yourself in it, everything will work itself out. There's no fear.
Crazy.
There's nothing.
It's crazy.
Well, as long as you're
in the magic of existence at that level, right? So
right. As long as you're not in that energy of chasing, right? She was in the chasing in the morning of hopefully that I can make this money this way or whatever. And then
no, I wasn't even chasing that. It was like a extended family member. So I was like, I'm gonna do I say no to projects. Yeah. So I was like, I'm just gonna be good, and like because it was a nonprofit, and so it was charity. So I'm like, okay, this is something that's like a do good thing. So I'm gonna do it for the love.
But in the end, are we valuing ourselves when we give away services for free? Like,
no.
Like this would be normally $200 worth of my time or whatever, and I'm lovingly donating this to you. Where sometimes that can be just like, okay, I'm going to do some nice things so that they'll value me later, and they never get around to valuing us.
That's
So
true.
that's most of our business world and our day to day, where you're just trying to be helpful or whatever, and it gets overlooked because that's what everybody's doing, right?
Yeah, and then you're just like, oh, I should have asked for more. Always ask for more.
Exactly. Okay, we're getting up close to our 1.5 hour mark, or pretty well. So in closing, I think we covered the jealousy and went very deep into that, which was good. And then we started to explore, I'll update the title a little bit, and I'll say family and light and dark exploration of self, kind of thing, because that's part of it. I don't know if you watched my live the other day about light and dark, and how dark is light is light. And once people start to understand that, they can start to transgress the I'm getting beat to shit all the time, all day long in my life or whatever, and start to realize that that's gentle guidance, somebody pounding on your forehead and you're getting a headache from it because you don't want to listen to it. But once you start seeing that maybe there's an underlying thing that's helping you improve or grow, that's the key to awakening, enlightenment, all this stuff, right? So I'd love people to take that and start to percolate that. And it's not an easy translation, because when you lived 40 or 50 years and you're suffering from a divorce and don't have a lot of money and all this kind of stuff, you feel like you're put upon and a massive victim. But if you step back and start to realize I'm a powerful being, I don't know why I'm not able to be powerful right now, and then start looking at things, then little changes start to happen. And that willingness, like Patrick said, you got beat to hell, and then you said, I don't want to be beat to hell anymore. Please tell me it easier. and it'll happen, because now you're aware and you're open. So, closing remarks. Go ahead, Patrick.
Just remember not to be hard on yourself. Whatever you're experiencing is what you chose to put in front of you to learn how to do and conquer, and it's your hurdle. And just know you'll get there, and practice self-love and keep working on you, and you'll get there.
And no matter how messy it is, you're doing it absolutely perfect, because there's no better way.
You'll get to parts of your self-discovery that are very messy, very uncomfortable, very unenjoyable, very extreme.
Yep.
As Paul said, this planet is a master class. That's why we all chose to come here. You're not going to get the varied extremes that we have on our world anywhere else. You may get one or the other in this, but not the huge mix of all the crazy stuff that we have on our world. That's why we all chose to come here, to experience this. So you can conquer it. You have that ability. You chose to come here and be a part of this. So,
and be gentle with yourself. And most of it is forgiveness, because you did it all to yourself. And it's just constantly, if you don't know Ho'oponopono, say, I'm sorry, I love you, please forgive me, thank you, over and over and over again. When you feel bad, it's the most amazing way to start opening.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Anya.
I was just going to add on, say yes to yourself. Say yes to yourself. Make that choice.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's okay to want things, and it's also okay to say no when you don't want things, so.
Yep. Well, we're here in a time where the pressure cooker is on maximum. It's ready to blow off, and nobody knows which way is up. Nobody has the answer. Nobody knows how it's going to turn out. It's all there just waiting, and we're so much needed to be in surrender right now, of just accepting what is, because how many people get trapped in, I should have done different back then, I shouldn't have went into that room, I shouldn't have said this, I shouldn't have, and you can't change it. It already happened. So start to rewrite that reality. Eventually you'll learn that you can go and reprogram the self-deprecating thoughts that said I did bad, or I should be shameful, or I shouldn't have yelled at my dad, or I shouldn't have whatever. And you just start loving it exactly the way it was. It was gritty and messy, and I hated myself in that moment. And then you get to take a breath and say, okay, I'm changing now.
Here, take the positive lessons that come from those regrets integrate them, and then don't repeat them. I had a whole bunch of regrets from my past life, and they're all serve me in lessons to make me stronger going forward, and things I'll never repeat again. So there's value in that, but focus on the positive, turn it around, like everything, transmute it. You can take any negative and turn it into a positive. So,
and turn off the movie, turn off the diatribe in your head about I shoulda or I coulda.
Right. Being all that self-judgment and self-critical, just allow it to be. Don't
take the lesson.
Don't ever judge your process. Sometimes you're up, sometimes you're down, sometimes you're back, forward. That's all part of the process. You will find your groove. Yeah. I've always seen life as like you're being in this canoe down the river, and a lot of times you're going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. But every time you're out, you have to pull yourself back in, and you go out and you pull yourself back in. Every time you pull yourself back into the center of that river, you get stronger and stronger until you get to the point where you could just streamline down the center of it and everything's easy.
Or until you're so exhausted from paddling, you stop paddling and realize you were meant to go the other way. And you just ride it.
Well, no, because if you're letting go, then you're choosing not to pull yourself back to center, because you want to be in center. At least the way I see life is just this giant circle, and I kind of like to tread on top of it. It's so much easier than getting pulled down into it and getting thrown all around and stuff. Yeah. Stay in that center, rise up, and just.
Well, I've learned when you're not struggling, the river always pulls you to the center, because that's where all the flow is. And I'm just riding it now, because I beat the hell out of myself. I have strapped a motor on, tried everything, exhausted, just trying to fight the flow.
Well, but if what you're trying to bring into your life is not meant to be, then yes, it's going to work that way. But when what you want is in life with what you're supposed to be doing, what you want and what source wants from you, it all flows. So you don't have that, what you're talking about, all occurs. So
right. Everybody's got different experiences. So.
Right, exactly, yeah.
Exactly. Okay, well, we will wind down, and we can let Anya go kiss her hand a couple times.
I'm in a lot of pain.
Well, kiss it and love it. Just hold it and caress it.
I will.
It's and take a Tylenol. You don't need to sit in pain.
Yeah.
It's all good.
At least we know what we're gonna get you for your birthday. We'll send you some boxing gloves down here from Canada.
Yeah.
As long as they're from Canada.
Okay. It'll be good. Don't feel sad about it. It'll be good. Just breathe and move the energy that's.
Oh no, I feel great. I feel like it's good that it happened. It needed to happen. Mm-hmm. So it feels nice. Like I feel like there's a new chapter that I'm now able to gracefully enter.
Exactly.
So, but
warrior Anya Queen, you're here.
Yeah. Feel that pain is nice. That suffering in your hand, that throbbing is part of the result, right? It's
yes.
You now got to viscerally be in your body, and you're fully embodied in your hand right now.
Yes.
And it's part of it. The blood's flowing.
Should have just done the left one in retrospect, but that's okay.
You'd still be in pain.
That's another lesson to learn for next time, if there is a next time.
There's always a next time.
Maybe that hand's not as strong, so you might have done less damage. Cool. Well, we got
so much.
3 powerful beings on the screen here, and we're imparting vulnerably of our experience so that others may be aware that there's alternate perspectives. And I think that's what we do here every time we come online. And I think it's beautiful. And I think, I'm honored by both these beautiful beings of light that are sharing vulnerably of their experience. And we want to keep doing it. And if people want to listen, or they want it posted on a different platform or whatever, we'll do whatever. We just got to get some followers, and I don't know. I love doing it.
Love it.
Tune in next week. We'll do the next PAP roundtable. So
Monday and Thursdays. 3 p.m. Mountain, which is GMT -7. We plan to be on here. So, and if you got topics, we're just kind of punting the ball around of ideas. Post them under the video, and we will be happy to talk about anything, or even bring people on that want to have some perspective or have a story that they want to tell. Let's do it.
Yeah, yeah. Or you can post questions because I guess it shows up live on your page, and then we can address them or whatever. So
Absolutely.
Perfect.
Cool.
have a
Well,
great day, everybody.
love you all. Have a great one.
Bye.
Stay real.